So what I'm going to do in today's video is actually read the Nexus post that recently came out about Yasuo, because it's talking about the fact that Yasuo is pretty much being permabanned. It's a problem, and it implies that they might be doing a mini rework on him. Not necessarily a major one like Yorick or something, but maybe like an ability change, or just some tweaking to him more than just raw power. Because their belief is, if they just flat out nerf Yasuo, that's not really fair to Yasuo players, in the instance that is player frustration is more of the problem than Yasuo being overpowered in terms of raw numbers. So first I'm just going to read the post in general. Someone asked pretty much, so Yasuo is getting banned in almost every game. What does Riot say to the people who like playing him? And honestly, they go on to say how cool Yasuo is. He's a lethal Ronin-esque character who can pull off slick moves in-game, dashing and slashing everywhere, leaving chaos and death behind him, at least when he's on the enemy team, aka the Yasuo effect. We're thrilled that we created a character that people love to play as much as him, but we're also sad that he's effectively removed from play because of his popularity. Kind of. We want you to be able to play Yasuo. The moments when he dashes from minion to minion, narrowly escaping death, or lands a 5-man ult getting a pentakill are super satisfying and exciting. We just need to make sure that the way you do it is also provides your opponents with a feeling that they could have made more meaningful decisions during the engagement. In other words, good old counterplay. Now, we should easily get his ban rate, or we could easily get his ban rate down by focusing on his raw power, but doing so would probably also mean that he'd have to be so weak to pick him that it was actually putting Yasuo players at a major disadvantage, let alone putting his promised fantasy at risk. Yasuo already struggles with being a viable champion the higher you climb, and instead has a lot of his playstyle derived from players who devote themselves to mastering him, and even then they aren't rewarded with the typical win rate growth you would expect. A decent indicator of this is present in his pro play presence. In 2016, he was picked 19 times and banned once. Nidalee, meanwhile, for reference, was picked 404 times and banned 930 times. In 2017, he's been picked once and banned once. With these numbers, or while these numbers certainly aren't good old proofreading before you read an article, huh? While these numbers certainly aren't conclusive, nor necessarily indicative of the problem, it's an interesting note that in the most competitive environment, Yasuo actually struggles to find his place on the Rift pretty much in general. Our belief is that we want to get him into a state where he is both viable and also not a must ban, and we need to tweak more than just numbers. He was already pretty high on our list of champions that we wanted to look at on the scope of a potential ability update. Think like Rek'Sai, Kindred, Heimerdinger, that kind of, area department. And with the release of 10 bans, he's moved right up alongside with fellow counterparts and LeBlanc and Azir. And then for those that don't know, they're looking at ability updates, kind of mini reworks on LeBlanc and Azir, because they're kind of in the same boat right now where just nerfing and buffing stuff isn't enough. They have to address the problems the champions provides at a champion level. So those champions also will be getting some love to them as well. But Yasuo now in the 10 ban system has also moved up to like the top of the priority list. Now, to finish off the article, it says, I want to stress that we haven't begun investigating yet as we iterate on some other projects, but we'll be taking a look at him in the next few weeks. I'd expect that when we're done with Yasuo, he will look and feel similar to how he does now, but with power shifted around on his kit to provide more windows of engaging decision making for his opponents, while maintaining a lot of the agile swordsmaster experience he provides today. Again, we're thrilled that Yasuo is a champion that gives people who play him something to love. Now we just need to find a fair way to have his opponents accept their fate as he steals their last breath with his blade. We would love to hear your thoughts on this actually. What is it you love about playing as Yasuo, and what is it that you hate when playing against him? Tell us in the comments, and I'll link this post, by the way, in the description to my own video, so then you can go and comment down in that section as well. And what I'm going to do for the rest of this video is kind of also just describe what I would be putting if I was commenting down in the comments below. When it comes, and I'll start with playing as Yasuo, because Yasuo, he is actually, in my opinion, pretty fun to play. I'm not really good with Yasuo per se myself, but one of the things I do like about Yasuo is that he has so much mobility that the outplay potential is definitely there. Things that if you would say a Kog'Maw, you're like, oh, I'm just dead. We just gotta accept death. Why? I'm not even gonna keep moving. Not gonna bother flashing away, using my heal, nothing. Let's just die, get it over with, get the death recounter started so I can get back in the game as soon as possible. Yasuo has a chance, right? He has a chance to kill if he's getting closed in on people. He has a chance to throw out a tornado, hit people, get a pentakill off of an ultimate. And then there's, of course, Wind Wall, which I'll get to that in a second because that's part of why I hate him. But it is a good defensive ability. Like that, it's like Brahm's Shield or something like that, but like a lot better because you can get hit super late and not have good reflexes and still save yourself. So that's really good outplay potential. But like as a champion, I do have to admit, he is pretty fun to play. Like I said, I'm not very good with him. And in the first Yasuo game I played on the Rift, I remember it because of how crazy my KDA ended up being. I ended up going like 1 and 9 in lane, just to give you an idea of how bad I played this first game of Yasuo. But I ended the game with 10 kills because of what the champion does and what the champion allows you to do, as long as you can farm, of course, because that was part of what kept me in the game, was farming. I also did the old school Static Shiv, Infinity Edge, like Mortal Reminder, Last Whisper, Trinity Force, like Yasuo build, by the way. I know Frozen Heart, Frozen Mallet, and like Phantom Dancer is like the new hotness right now, but I'm no thanks. Anyway, Yasuo as a champion, when it comes to what people love about him, is apparently all of that though, right? It's the outplay potential. The fact that if there's a lot of games where you feel like your teammates cost you the game, or you didn't have control even though you were fed, Yasuo is an example of one of those champions who will give you such power though. Like, hey, I did well in lane, I wish I could have translated this into a win. Oh, well then you play Yasuo. Yasuo has the ability to convert that. He can literally 1v5 in the hands of a good Yasuo player. And that's the thing. Picking up Yasuo and just generally playing him, that's possible for anybody, right? All you have to know is know how to press 4 buttons, read some tooltips, and get a general idea of what he does. But the people that do the really cool things on him are people that put in a lot of time, and as such can pull off those outplay potential things super well. That's probably what I would say I would love about playing as Yasuo. I've started spamming him in the Blood Moon mode as well, the game mode that's coming back this weekend. It is super fun. It's just, he's fun to play in that route, in that instance. But the bigger issue obviously is if everybody just loved him and loved playing as him, he wouldn't be, you know, getting banned in all of his games. The Yasuo effect, which I touched on earlier. The idea that when you play as a Yasuo or you play with a Yasuo on your team, he's probably what's going to feed and cost you the game. Meanwhile, if you're ever playing against a Yasuo, he's probably the one that's going to get fed and then win the enemy team the game and kill all of you, and then that's just that. So people ban him out of the idea that they just don't want to go through that. It's not necessarily that you can't beat Yasuo, right? I've even beaten my fair share of Yasuos. I mentioned this in a past video. If I'm playing mid lane against Yasuo, I just lock in Morgana, and then it's just a good time, because the Dark Soil goes over his wind wall, or under it, I should say. It dwindles down his shield. It's just actually really great playing Morgana into Yasuo, actually. It's actually not fair, even, almost. But in general, it's not the fact that people haven't beaten Yasuo, it's that they don't want to take that coin flip that the Yasuo effect happens. Because if I had to talk about specifically what I don't like about Yasuo, it's actually the wind wall more than anything else. Actually, I wouldn't actually dislike Yasuo kind of at all if wind wall didn't do the foolishness. I had a video once and I don't have it right now, I'm sorry. Yasuo dashed at me once, but he like flashed also through the wind wall clearly behind me, and so I tried to throw in a snare ability at him so I could get away, and my flame chompers, I was playing as Jinx, landed behind the wind wall that was clearly behind me, and then I die. It's not like the flame choppers might have saved me anyway, but I had flash, so I was going to snare him with the flame choppers, flash away, my tower was like right there, so I was figuring I would at least be maybe save something, but no, wind wall actually like screwed me over in that scenario, and Jinx isn't the only one. That's a thing that just happens a lot sometimes, because the way wind wall works is it starts at Yasuo and then moves forward. So even though the wind wall was behind me, I threw it at Yasuo, who was in front of me and in front of him, so it pushed the flame choppers back on the other side of the wall that was already behind me. And that right there is what I don't like about Yasuo. I don't actually mind the dashing, I don't mind the passive too much, even though it's like, hey, most other champions gotta build like triple crit items to get what you get in like a crit item and a half. So, you know, there's that. But honestly, you can have all the crit in the world if you have no damage behind it. You're not going to be critting for a lot anyway. So I'm like on the fence about that one. It's mainly wind wall for me. Just kind of fix the way wind wall's hitbox works. Don't make it so that you can not have good reflexes and still be saved from a bunch of damage or an ability to get cut off like that. And honestly, I'd actually be fine with Yasuo as is. Because beyond that, it would then be a matter of me admitting that I would just have to get good at the game and get good at beating Yasuo. But that's the one thing I don't like about him, and that's the Yasuo effect also. So that's all for this video from me. Part of this video, like I said, I'll link the post in the comments down below so you can comment about what you don't like about Yasuo. Feel free to comment on this video about what you don't like about Yasuo as well. We can have a conversation about that. What do you think about the mini rework that potentially is coming for him? What do you expect from it? And that's all for this video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe as well. I don't know which video will be next, because life can be quite a mess. So until next time, take care from the Fire Godai FS. Thank you for watching.